Cool. So this is the fourth installment in a four-part education series that Hustle Crew has been running called Layoffs to Lemonade. And the purpose of this really was to try and bring some like positive energy into quite a trying and challenging time for our industry. I myself was laid off from a VP role in a software company at the end of last year. And since then, so many more people in our community have been affected by the layoffs. And one of the things that I've learned that's really important and really valuable in this time is to recession proof your career. And I think the only way to recession proof your career is by building the skills that mean that whenever you are giving up your time for work, you're really maximizing the value of your time, getting as much money as you can out of that experience. And over the course of this education series, we've been touching on a lot of topics: how to activate your creator mode, how to use storytelling as a way to build your personal brand and really start to monetize as a creator, as a public speaker, as a consultant. In the last session that we had, we talked specifically about networking and how to develop your network so that you can convert those connections into customers, into collaborators. And what we're going to do in this webinar is really focus on how you actually put a price on your value. And I'm coming at this from both angles, whether you're like negotiating in a salary suit or whether you're actually starting to monetize as an entrepreneur, as a consultant, a public speaker, a content creator. I'm trying to help you get the kind of deals that I do, where I charge sometimes like 5K for a keynote, 15K for a keynote, depending on the client, depending on the audience. If I can do it, you can do it. You know, just a few years ago, I was just another woman in tech. And over the last 6 years, by doing this work of building a story, building a network, I've been able to create this brand that now really makes it a lot more like flexible and easy for me to like design the life on and career on my terms. Of course, I was sad to be laid off, but at the same time, being laid off didn't mean a drastic change in my lifestyle or a drastic change in my trajectory. Thankfully, because I had been doing this work in the background of building my brand and leveraging my network. So here's a quick breakdown of how the time that we're here together is going to go. Starting with a little bit of housekeeping. Then we've got 3 sections. The first one is building your confidence. Let's face it, most of us are probably like not feeling super confident to like tell a brand that says, hey, we'd love you to speak at this event. Cool, pay me 10K and I'll do it. Fly me there first class. It takes a lot of guts to negotiate on those terms, but it is possible. So I want to spend a bit of time telling you like how you can build your confidence to do that. In a similar way, when you're consulting, when I first started consulting, I would like do a lot of work for free. Then I charge maybe like a few £100. Now I'm charging £1,000 an hour because I feel like my time is extremely valuable and the benefit you're going to get from that is valuable too. You can make a case for having that value as well. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about how you build the confidence and build that track record to negotiate those prices. Then I'm going to talk a bit about how you create a menu. This is like the best way to maximize the budget available. Most companies or employers are never going to really tell you what they can pay unless it's legally required in your state. For example, New York just passed legislation to make that a requirement for employers. But yeah, most of the time you're kind of operating in the dark. And when you're operating in the dark, what you need to do is show them a range of possibilities and options so that you can then, depending on how they feedback on those options, get a clearer picture of how much they're willing to pay. Then I'm going to talk about how you rehearse to flashpoints. In my opinion, most negotiations fall apart because there's an unexpected element that the conversation brings up, an unexpected point, detour, piece of feedback that basically throws you off guard and knocks your confidence. And what I want to do in that portion of the webinar is teach you how to prepare for those moments. A lot of the times people are doing that on purpose to try and knock the wind out of your sails and get you to settle for a lower price. So I'm going to teach you the tactics that have helped me prepare for those moments. And as I said, I'll just stop sharing my screen for a moment. There is a Slido link that I'm going to pop into the chat right now. So if you feel comfortable putting something in Zoom, feel free, but otherwise you've got an anonymous Q&A function there in Slido. So Just a little bit about Hustle Crew. I started this community in 2016 because I felt the strong need to make the tech industry more inclusive. I had just quit a startup where I was the only Black employee there, and no one understood why it was not okay to like touch my hair without my permission. And I had no allies and no, peers that could like be a part of that conversation and help me and guide me. So I quit and started a meetup here in London where I live. And over the few years since then, Hustle Crew has grown into, a B2B training company, which is amazing. We've been able to offer our inclusion education to employers like Stella McCartney, Bloom and Wild, Allplans, all with this goal of creating shared language and shared meaning around key concepts related to inclusion. And a big part of this Layoffs to Lemonade webinar series has been a way for me to educate the community. I genuinely feel that each one should teach one. And like, if I can succeed and share that playbook with you, then I hope that you will also be successful. And that's just great for all of us. So I just want to remind you that this is a safe space. It's also a brave space. We're talking about money. There's a lot of emotions tied to money. So just bear that in mind as you're kind of listening to the content and reflecting on how you can put the content into action for yourself and your personal needs. This is a chance for all of us to learn together, grow together. But like I said, there might be some complex emotions bubbling up from confidence, fear of rejection, self-esteem. So, just be compassionate to yourself over the next 45 minutes or so. And also just be respectful of any issues or reflections that people might share in the Q&A or in the chat. But, I'm going to be here to guide you. Let's assume positive intent. And with that, let's just jump into the content. So let's start with building your confidence. Whether you are about to charge more for your work as, an in-house contractor or freelancer, whether you're about to launch your own business as a consultant, or you're trying to get more public speaking gigs, it's really important that you do your research so that you're always speaking from a place of confidence and from a space of knowledge, right? So what are people charging for similar work? You can go on the websites of the people you aspire to be, people you're inspired by, competitors, and see what they are charging. If you're looking at salaries, you can go on websites like Glassdoor, you can go on PayScale, you can also go on Twitter. A lot of people start Twitter threads saying, hey, if you do X job, what do you earn? Hey, if you're in Y role, what do you earn? I've been on Twitter and seen Google spreadsheets where engineers are literally typing in how much they earn, where they're based, how much equity they have. So, the internet is an incredibly powerful resource. You might also know this platform called Blink. Blink is also like a social media network, talks about careers. A lot of people who've been laid off have been on there sharing their experiences. But if you go on Blink, you can also read about what people are earning in different companies and how those earnings are split across cash and equity. So yeah, just sticking on that point of research, don't be afraid to also just like ask people, right? So if you're about to start like consulting, find someone who does consulting and just say to them, hey, if I were to hire you today for 1 hour, 1 day, a 6-week project, what would you charge me? And see how they put their proposal together. Like, how do they structure that costing? How do they structure those prices? And then copy them. And as you continue your journey of building your business and building your customer base, you will start to create an approach that makes sense for you. Now, if you have specific questions about the type of pricing you want to do, or the type of salaries you're going after, that's what the Slido is for. So like, please feel free to like pop your questions in there and I'll do my best to answer them for you. The other thing that's really important in the research stage of negotiation is gathering your receipts. Now, what I mean by that is you need to have confidence in what you have achieved, what qualifications you've achieved, what projects you've completed, what work you've collaborated on, so that you genuinely believe you deserve that number. If Elon Musk called me today and said, Abadesi, I need you to come and save Twitter and like make us more inclusive, this, that, and the other, with his track record, with that reputation, I'd be like, bruh, you best be paying me at least $1 million a year because I ain't doing it for less. I'm not letting you right off the back of my reputation in that toxic environment unless the price is right. Now, I can say that with confidence because I've got the receipts. In my last VP role at a software company, I was able to increase representation of Black employees by 800% year on year, Middle Eastern and Asian employees by 700% year on year, Now, we started with low baseline numbers, but I was able to make a big enough impact across every level of the business, from hiring to retention, that we could actually like create positive results. That means I've got my receipts. I've got my track record. I've won awards. I've been featured in press like the BBC, Elle Magazine. When you hire me or when you work with me, you are getting my brand by association. I've built a community of tens of thousands of tech professionals across the world. When you work with me, you're getting the Hustle Crew community by association. So I have my receipts, and it's these receipts that give me the confidence to demand the big bucks. It's these receipts that give me the confidence to say, sure, I'm happy to jump on a call and give you a little bit of advice, but are you happy to pay me £1,000 for that time, £5,000 for that time, £10,000 for that time, whatever it might be. So your receipts are a really big part of you building the confidence to ask for more. And this is especially true if you are not someone that is reflected by the dominant groups of your industry, right? So when I look at who's leading in tech, I don't necessarily see people like me. So it's really important for me to not internalize that lack of representation and not internalize some of the bias and prejudice that I've experienced in the past, and actually kind of go, you know what, pretty amazing, actually. Yeah, I do deserve that. Another thing that you can do is get more testimonials, get that social proof. Social proof is really important. If you have a personal website, get testimonials on there. If you're using LinkedIn for a lot of your, business development or building connections, then make sure that you have LinkedIn testimonials from the people that you used to work with. One of the things that you can do that's really effective is write a LinkedIn testimonial on the behalf of someone else. So you can say, hey, I'd really appreciate if you could write a testimonial about that project that we worked on together, that feature that we shipped together, whatever it might be. You can actually draft it. You can draft it in their voice. And then instead of them having to carve out time to start from scratch, create a new testimonial, they can just tweak what you've written, copy and paste it and post. Another thing that's really important for you to do is create your main database CV. What do I mean by that? Most people's latest CV or resume is literally just like the last version that they used for the job that they're in. And what you really should have is a multi-page resume or CV that lists every skill and achievement, no matter how small. Go into the minutiae of everything you've done, because that is a record of your abilities. That's a record of your skill set. And when you have that pages and pages and pages long resume that shows all the different things you've done over the years, all the way back to school, grade school, I don't care, you just suddenly remember, wow, I've done a lot of things. I'm really multi-talented. This is pretty interesting. Put all the hobbies in there, all the side projects, all the volunteering, all the charity, travel, whatever it is. Remember that you have lived a full life, to the means you have available. And remember that all of those experiences that you have are contributing to your value, right? Because that's your unique perspective. That's your unique vantage point. So that's another really valuable thing that you can build up. The other thing I want to say is, like, if you're trying to build up your public speaking practice, your consulting practice on a small, low stakes scale. Go through your alumni networks and offer to do a bit of help. Go into grassroots communities and start there. Before you start pitching to the Googles of the world and the Metas and the Spotifys or whatever, start small, practice, and then prepare yourself for a bigger stage. So what are some examples that really bring this to life? If you're in that phase of researching prices and researching salaries, a really very practical thing that you can do is create a Google Sheet with all of that data, right? Every data point you find, pop it in there. This person charges this for that, or this company pays this for that. Create your own database of facts, right? That's your archive. That's your data set that will help you in your future conversations. You can even add additional elements like the geography, the size of the company, the funding level, if it is a salary, because then you can start to ascertain whether or not the person on the other side of the negotiation table is being truthful or not. When they start saying companies of our size don't pay like that, you can think, actually, I know of a company just like yours that pays exactly that. Here's the data point. Here's the price point. The other thing that you want to do is, I mentioned earlier on the other side, a yay folder. And the yay folder is something that I'm a bit obsessed with. It's honestly like the antidote to low self-esteem and low confidence. every piece of positive feedback you have ever received, okay? I don't care if it's a DM, a comment on a post, a Slack message, screenshot that, put it in a folder on your cloud drive. And every time you're starting to doubt yourself or think, oh, I'm just not sure if I deserve this, I can afford this, open the folder and read that folder when you're feeling down. And it's especially important for you to read that when you are preparing for an interview, because let's face it, the best negotiators in an interview are the people that believe they deserve that number. And it goes for any kind of negotiation. If the person on the other side of the table can sense even like the faintest whiff of doubt or lack of confidence, they're going to dive right in there so that they can keep more of their budget. So when you enter that space feeling super confident, sure of your achievements, sure of what you bring to the table, it's going to be a lot easier for you to hold your ground and be like, I will not do this work for less. And if you can't afford me, someone else can. The other thing that's really important and what's helped me is just doing more of the things that you're good at, to remember that you can do things well and you can do things easily. Yes, negotiation is hard. Why is negotiation hard? 1, talking about money is awkward. 2, no one likes rejection. And in a negotiation, you combine these two things, money and rejection. But there are probably other things that you do very well. You know, you might not be good at negotiating money, but maybe you're good at negotiating what you're going to watch on Netflix tonight. Maybe you're good at negotiating what takeaway you're going to order this weekend. And remember that there are other places in your life where you're doing negotiations well, or you're doing any other type of communication, advocating, change management well. And hone in on that and be like, okay, fine, I might not be the best salary negotiator, I might not be the best fee negotiator, but there are other places in my life where the same skills are being executed to a great degree, and I just need to channel that energy. The other thing I wanted to say was, when I talked about small stakes practice, offer the skill that you now want to monetize for, if that's the mode that you're in as you show up here, being a better speaker, being a better presenter, being a better consultant. Offer to help a small group or a community. Use them as your experimental lab. Use them as the first people to practice sending your proposal, your menu of options to, or, you know, offer to mentor someone as your way to start building up the skill of speaking and teaching, and then see how you get on from there. Cool. So yeah, that's the end of the first part. As I said, you know, the benefit of joining live is that you get the chance to ask like questions that are like really personal to you and your experiences, and get that answer directly from me. So if there's anything else you wanted to know about building up your confidence as you show up to a negotiation and just like feeling more confident as a negotiator, please let me know, either here on Zoom or on the side out, and I'll be sure to save time at the end to answer them. But with that, let's just jump into part 2. So part 2 is building your menu of options. This is something that I said is absolutely essential, especially if you do not know the budget available. So let's say you are now in entrepreneur mode, consultant mode, creator mode, about to embark on a partnership with a brand, a company, and they have said, send me your deck, send me your proposal, send me your rates. We'd really love to work with you. Now, what you want to do here is offer a range from low to high, okay? It's a bit like when you go to, I don't know, the supermarket, right? You go to the supermarket, there's like the basic range, supermarket own brand. Then there's like, I don't know, like another brand somewhere in the middle. And then there's that primo luxury brand that you're just like, well, maybe if it's Christmas, I'll treat myself to that. You need to apply the same approach to your output and your time. You need to have your basics range, which is like, I'm not even gonna like create something unique for you. I'm literally just gonna copy and paste my last talk, my last presentation. But the time of doing that and delivering it is coming in at a few hundred, right? Whatever it might be. Then you want your middle of the range thing where you're like, okay, actually for a few hundred more or upwards of 1,000 or thousands, I will do time with you in consultation to prepare. Then I will go away and prepare even more. Then I will deliver the work, right? Then you have the primo luxury option, which is thousands of thousands, tens of thousands, I don't know. And for that, you might say, I will consult with multiple people across the business. I will give you the opportunity to revise the content this many times. Then I will deliver the content. And 3 to 6 months after, I will do another bonus live thing where you and your team can participate. Now, 3 options will probably suffice. feel free to include 4 or 5. The purpose of offering the options is not to get them to pick an option. It's to advance the conversation to a stage where they then start thinking, what do I want? And how much am I willing to pay? Sometimes when they don't tell you the budget, it's because they also don't know how much they're willing to spend. They're also unsure how best to approach the challenge, how best to solve the problem. So by offering a range of options, you're also inviting them along this journey to start thinking a bit more intentionally about what they want and what they're willing to pay for what they want. So it's really important that you do your research. How do competitors structure their prices, right? If this is your first foray into consulting, coaching, speaking, have a look. Go on the internet, read what people have said in their blogs, watch what people have said in their YouTube videos, see what other similar people in that space are doing when it comes to their fees and their prices for companies. You can find so much on the internet just from seeing what other people share about their experiences. Now, if the brand is still telling you, I don't have any more information I can give you, just go ahead and prepare the proposal. I can't tell you the budget. I can't tell you this. Don't be afraid to ask other questions, right? In fact, it's probably great if you can have a checklist of questions as you go into that meeting with your potential new client and say to them, what is the purpose of this partnership? How are you going to measure the value of this investment? Have you done similar work like this in the past? How did it go? Did it go well? If it went well, what made it go well? If it didn't go well, what didn't make it go well? All of those data points that you're gathering are pieces of information that you can now put into your proposal so that when they read the proposal, they're like, wow, this is exactly what we want, or this is really going to be an improvement on the last thing that we did. So yeah, really, create that list of questions that give you the information you need to make the proposal feel very tailored to them, and then make sure that you're offering prices from the bare minimum you're willing to do it for all the way up to literally the most ridiculous price. Imagine like the last time you booked a flight. Okay, so the last time you booked a flight, I don't know, if you're like me, you just look for the cheapest option. You're like, okay, cool, whatever. But every now and then you're like, let me just see how much, economy plus or business is. And then maybe if you're feeling extra bougie, you're just like, let's see how much first class is. Now, if you're flying London to, I don't know, Lagos, like I recently did, an economy flight could literally cost you like £500 or £600. And then, you look at first class and it's like £5,000. And in my head, I was like, who's going to pay £5,000 for first class? Someone will, someone is, someone did. So you need to take that same approach with your menu of options. Yes, it might seem absurd to include an option in there that's 5, 10, 20x the lowest price that you have also included, but someone would pay that, maybe, or at least close to that. Or at least they will say, I really like the options within that package. Can we meet in the middle? And then you're going to be in the position of deciding how much value you are willing to give at the budget they have available. My advice is do not devalue yourself too much. Inevitably, you're going to have someone that's like, I want the first class package at the economy price. Be wary. That's like a really bad place to start a partnership from, right? You need to make sure that you're going in on a dynamic where you're respected and you're valued for the contributions you are making. And if someone says, I want the first class package at an economy price point, what they're saying is, we do not value your first class package at the first class price point. In fact, we think your first class package is worth the economy price point. I don't want to work with people like that. What you can say is, listen, I'll give you one element of the first class package, add it into the economy package, and only increase the price by 20%. The negotiation continues. The negotiation continues. So yeah, these are just all the tactics that you can use and that I have used to make sure that when the negotiation finally reaches a conclusion, I feel satisfied that I have promised a piece of work that will satisfy the client's needs, but that will also give me appropriate payment for my time and hopefully a very healthy margin for my time. So let's think about how we put this into action. If you are an entrepreneur, a creator, a consultant, remember that there are different ways you can itemize your time and your contributions. You can charge an hourly rate, which would be significantly high, right? If someone just wants you for an hour, like I said, I charge £1,000 for consulting, because at the end of the day, like, it's never going to be just an hour, is it? Like, it's going to be a little bit of prep before, it's going to be a little bit of prep after. Now, if you buy 10 hours of my time, maybe I'll discount that. Maybe I'll even discount that up to 50% to incentivize you to buy 10 hours of my time. Because sure, I can make 1 hour of consulting at £1,000, or I can tell you that 10 hours of consulting is going to be even more valuable, and I'll offer it to you at 50%. Now I'm making £5,000 from the same client with the same challenge. So be creative with how your hourly rate works. Start high, but incentivize people to buy more by creating a discount. Another thing you can do is offer a day rate, right? This might be more reasonable for companies that want to like work with you in like a longer term or do a bit more work with you. Again, set the rate at a price point you are happy with. If you have to spend a whole day working on that project, what is that going to be? And then think about a project rate. If someone asks you to deliver a report or a specific piece of work, you might just, instead of like counting every single unit of time, just kind of go, right, for this project to happen, we're going to need X meetings, X amount of calls, and then eventually, you know, this many pages of content is going to come out, whatever it is. You might then say, I'm just going to price it up to make it worth 3 months of my time, 3 months of my dedicated time. That's how much it's going to cost. Make sure that as you're itemizing your menu, you also distinguish between preparation time and delivery time. That's also really important, because you really want to break it down for the client. You want to make it as obvious as possible what their money is going towards. Now, this is really important. The more marginalized you are, the more you need to increase whatever you think you should charge. There's a lot of really interesting research about like what people are willing to ask for in a negotiation room, whether that's like negotiating a salary or you know, even renegotiating fees. And what the data shows us is that people from underrepresented backgrounds, we like really undervalue our talent. It's pretty shocking. We disproportionately ask for like below the market rate, and we're disproportionately paid below the market rate. And even if you look at the influencer economy, there's an influencer ethnicity pay gap. Brands are actually paying white influencers significantly more for the same amount of work than they're paying Black influencers. So what's really fascinating about this is that there are times where I think, oh gosh, I really want to charge them that, but can I charge them that? Is that even okay? Let me just throw it out there. That number that I think is high is still lower than what a member of the dominant groups is charging. So the reason I'm telling you the more marginalized you are, the more you need to increase your number, is because you cannot shake all of the bias, prejudice, discrimination that you have internalized. You cannot shake the self-esteem issues that are then attached to those experiences. So when you land on a number that you feel confident is the highest number you can go, this is me telling you to increase it by at least 30%, if not 50%. You owe it to yourself and future people to normalize marginalized people demanding more. That's how we change the world in a positive way. So yeah, that's the end of my speech on that. But just make sure that you really do charge more than you think you can charge, especially if you're a woman, Black woman, gay Black woman, whatever it might be. However marginalized you are, up the number, up the number, up the number. Now, if you're negotiating salary, I want you to remember that compensation is not just cash. So be creative. You can get cash, you can get bonuses, you can get a bonus that you're paid when you sign, you can get a bonus that you're paid every year based on your performance, you can get equity, you can get benefits. If a company says, oh, I can't afford to pay you 100 grand a year or whatever you want, you can say, okay, cool, well, what can you afford to pay me? And when they say 75K, you go, okay, you pay me 75K, but you pay me a 25K signing bonus. Or you say, okay, you pay me 75K, but I want more equity and I want it to vest quicker. Or I want you to pay for my private healthcare and for all of my family. There are a lot of tax deductible elements of a compensation package where a company is probably more willing to be flexible than with cash. So just be creative and be prepared for them to say, no, we can't afford that, and go, okay, well, more of this, more of that. just play around with increasing or decreasing each one, because they don't hold equal value to the employer. Same with private healthcare. They've probably already negotiated hundreds or thousands of licenses. Adding another person onto one doesn't make a difference. Increasing the type of package you have, marginal cost. So make sure that you are prepared to maximize the value that you're getting out of that negotiation by being creative and thinking differently about all the different elements of it. The final thing I wanted to say is, if they don't say no, you've started too low. I learned this the hard way. A few years ago, I was working in a startup. I was starting to feel a bit disillusioned. And I was like, do you know what? Maybe I should go like work in the creative sector, because I was hearing about all my friends, you know, doing similar work to me, operational stuff, business development, copywriting, product development, you name it. And I thought, why don't I go work in the creative sector, work for an agency that's like building digital products for brands or something. I'll probably get paid a lot better. Now, this is like over 10 years ago. And at the time, I was probably earning like, I don't know, 35K, I think. Yeah. And I went to this company and I had a meeting with the CEO. It was one of those coffees that's actually an interview. So I showed up for this coffee, and before I know it, I'm like, you know, pitching myself, pitching my work. And he goes, great, I'd love you to join the team. How much do you want to earn? And I was so put on the spot. I wasn't expecting to be asked my earning expectations in that conversation. I thought I was going for a coffee date. I have since learned, if you're going for a coffee, be prepared for an interview. Anywho, I was like, okay, I earn 35. I just want to say more than what I'm earning. And so I literally said like 55, because I was like, that's already 20K more than I earn. And he was like, he was almost shocked. And he said, great, how soon can you start? And in that moment, I knew, damn it, he was ready to pay more. I should have asked for 70, 75, 80. And I was so sad, because I kind of thought, I'm stuck at that number now. And what I've learned from that is kind of similar to what Cindy Gallop says. You know, you have to say the highest number you can say without laughing. What I should have said was, I want 100K. For him to then be like, no, more realistic, I'll pay you 70. And I'd be like, cool, I'm happy with that. But I started too low. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're not hearing no, you're starting too low. And when you get good at negotiating, like I have done, I now am used to people pushing back, because I'm always going in at the highest number. Literally, hey, Abdesi, how much do you charge to speak? 20K. Oof, okay, wow, no, we've never paid that much. Okay, well, how much do you want to pay? And then they're already like, damn, she's giving us a massive discount. Oh, hi, Abdesi, like we want to help consulting. How much do you charge? Oh, well, it depends. I don't know, 2,000 an hour? Ooh, whoa, that's really expensive. We were thinking more like, I don't know, 500 pounds an hour. Okay, well, that's way too low. How about we meet in the middle, 1,000 pounds? Okay, great. Thank you so much for being flexible. You really want to like change the power dynamic by going in really high, because then they're like, damn, they must be worth it. Reassuringly expensive. Make yourself reassuringly expensive. So as I said, if they don't say no, you've started too low. A negotiation should never be 3 seconds long. Okay, you want a negotiation to have a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of give and take. And if your negotiation is ending too early, like that is a sure sign that you have just undervalued yourself and you have underpriced yourself. Get comfortable making people uncomfortable. Get comfortable throwing out a ridiculous number and just waiting. How much for that? $500,000. I mean, I don't know what that was in reference to, but say really high numbers and then just keep quiet and just let people squirm, let people turn it over in their mind. Don't negotiate against yourself, as I've seen people do. I've seen people, when even I'm hiring people, like, oh, how much do you charge? Like, this much? Actually, this much? No, this much. I was like, why are you negotiating against yourself? Let me think. Put the number out there and then wait and make sure that number is high. You want someone to like think about it, to almost be like, wow, ooh, okay, I'm gonna have to go and talk about that. I'm gonna have to go and get approval for that. Now you're in a negotiation that is going to help you maximize your value. Someone's just saying, not a question, but I usually try to not give a number first. If they don't know the exact budget, I'll ask for a range that they can share. And it's not until they say they really don't know or are still figuring out that I share my rates. Yeah, definitely. Exactly. I still err to the side of Cindy Gallop, though, where it's just like, say a ridiculously high number so that they're just like, what? But yeah, that's also good. Thank you for sharing. Okay, let me just jump back into the slides and then I'll jump into the Slido questions. So, you know, things, oh, Yeah, sorry, that was the final bit. Okay, cool. Okay, so this is the final section, and this is all about how you respond to flashpoints. So flashpoints are the things that are said in negotiation that really throw you off course, right? So that's when someone's like, I've just gone in there and I've been like, I'm charging you 20K for this keynote speech. What are you gonna do? And the flashpoint could be, that's more than we'd spend in a year. Or it might be, I didn't expect to pay that much. Or someone told me you've worked for them for much less. A flashpoint is the kind of response that could just knock the wind out your sails, knock your confidence, throw you off your feet a little bit. And that's why it's really important for you to be prepared for that point in the conversation, right? So if someone suddenly says, oh, that's ridiculous, that's preposterous, that's just their opinion, right? That is just their opinion. There was a time where Hustle Crew ran an event series and someone was like, you need to charge that event. You shouldn't charge for that event. You should make it free. And I was like, no, I'm not going to make it free. It's like really valuable and I don't want it to be free. So like, oh, well, maybe you can just charge like a nominal amount, like, a few dollars, maybe $5. And I was like, no, I'm going to charge £15, $20 for this event because I know it's worth it and I know it's valuable. I made 15K in a weekend because I charged $20 for that event. 15K in one weekend. Now imagine if I had let that person's doubt feed into my mind. If I had listened to that person, I would have charged nothing. I would have made nothing. I would have delivered the same value to the attendees. But in my version of reality, where I listened to my gut and said, no, I'm not undervaluing it, I made 15 grand for my business. So it's really important that, we prepare for people to challenge us and challenge our value, and that we really stick to our guns. And all that work I said earlier around building your confidence is going to help you do that. Remember your experiences, your skills, your track record. Remember your receipts. Remember your yay folder, all those positive pieces of information. And remember that there is a customer, a client out there willing to pay you what you're worth. It might not be this person right here, right now, but someone is out there and they will pay for you. And those are the people you want to work with. And once you work with them and create a positive relationship with them, they will refer you to other people. Some of the clients I've done the most expensive work with have become my highest referrers because they recognize the value in that, right? It's reassuringly expensive. They got what they needed, and now they recommend us, they recommend me as a consultant to other people. The people who are the cheapskates trying to ground you down on price, they're only going to use you till they find someone cheaper who can do this similar kind of work. They're not really caring about the quality of the output. They're just trying to tick a box. And you don't really want to work with people like that. At least I don't like working with people like that. I like working with people who are happy to spend money to get good work. So how do you put this into action? Here's some suggestions that I have. Rehearse with a friend those flashpoints. Rehearse with a friend someone saying, I'm not going to pay that much. That's way too expensive. How dare you? Whatever kind of thing someone might say that makes you lose your confidence. Practice with a friend or practice in front of the mirror. Also remember that you don't need to answer right away, right? The best negotiation tactic is pausing and using silence. So if you're in the conversation and you've thrown out your number or the number's been put on the table and you're trying to think where within that budget you want to sit, obviously the highest point, have some stock phrases. Think about like, oh, that's really interesting. Pause. Oh, I totally see your perspective. Pause. Yeah, it makes sense for you to think strategically on this. Yeah, you don't need to agree. You just need to say a little bit of filler to buy yourself some time as you think of how you're now going to respond to that stop phrase. And you can say, I hear you. I hear you. Yeah. I hear you. I understood that you wanted to make the most out of this partnership. And that's why I wanted to present to you what I see as the most impactful option. The most impactful option is also the most expensive option because there's a direct correlation between impact and price. There's a direct correlation between, my output and value. And of course, we can go for, the lower price, we can go for the lower option, but I just want to make sure your expectations are managed that when you are paying for the lowest package or when you're paying the lowest price, you are not getting the maximum value. I've had it sometimes where a client's been referred to me and they go, oh, we want to do this, we want to do that, just like she had, just like he had, but we only want to pay this. And I say, I hear you, but know that the person that referred you went for the premium package. So don't have the expectation of delivery of work and output that they had because you're paying less. And again, that's on you. It makes sense for you to think within your budget, but your budget ain't their budget. And what they got was good because they had a good budget, and your budget's small. So you're going to get small stuff. But yeah, just be prepared to respond and then just restate your case. It's like being a politician. You say the same thing over and over. I hear you. I understand. You know what? How about this? I'll reduce by 10%, 20%, whatever percent, but I'm also going to take this element away. Or how about this? Let's compromise. People like to feel like they're winning something. I will, take this away and, reduce it by this much, but I can't go any lower than that because I also don't want to compromise my work. I want to make sure that I'm doing the best for you. I don't want to be demotivated when I'm doing this. I want to prioritize you. I want to put you first. And I need to be, motivated at the price point to do that. The final thing I want to say on this before I jump into the questions is be prepared to walk away. Okay, because I have been that person where I was just desperate for work and they were just hammering me on the price, hammering me on the price, hammering me on the price. And in a moment of weakness, I said, oh, okay, fine, we'll do it. And it ended up being the most needy, time-consuming client to the point where I was like so resentful. I was like, oh my God, I regret this so much. I would pay them to go away right now. That's how bad it is. So what I'm trying to say is like, you have to be prepared to walk away. And you have to be prepared to say no. And sometimes it's a no for now. I've had companies where it's like, we really can't afford you. We're a startup. We're this, we're that. Hustle Crew is a premium product, by the way, in case you haven't got that. I'm a high margin business because I like healthy cash flow. Now, I've had a lot of people who are like, oh, we can't afford you right now. We found a cheaper trainer. We found a cheaper consultant. Fine. But a few years down the line, they're like, oh my God, we can afford you now. We're really excited to work with you. And we're bigger, so we're going to do more. A better aligned opportunity will come. The other thing that you have to consider if you devalue yourself is like, how is that going to affect your confidence? How's that going to affect your self-esteem? If you keep saying yes to the lowest offer or to people who are negotiating you down, it will get harder and harder for you to demand high fees, for you to ask for more. So it's really important, and I know it's difficult. I'm saying this literally while the economy is not doing so great, but have a mindset of abundance. Believe that more opportunities will come to you. Believe that more work will come to you. Because if you don't believe that, you're going to act from a place of desperation like I did, that you might end up regretting or be resentful for. So yeah, have a mindset of abundance, not scarcity. So yeah, I'm just going to stop right there. Again, please feel free to ask questions in Zoom and Slido. Let me just jump into this next question from Ngan. I hope I've answered that correctly. How do you get over the imposter syndrome though? So, at the beginning of the session, I talked about building confidence. And I think it is really important to remind yourself of how impressive you are. I know it's really hard, right? It is hard, okay? We all have our demons. We all have our self-esteem issues, our self-confidence issues. But, something I literally learned in therapy was look for the evidence. If you're charging for work as a designer, as a consultant, as a speaker, look for the evidence that you are a good designer, consultant, engineer, speaker. And believe that evidence. It's there in front of you. The testimonials are there in front of you. The feedback is there in front of you. You can see it in black and white, in the screenshots from work, in the emails, in the, certificate you got at school. You have that evidence that shows that you are capable and you are competent. So believe that evidence. And remember that this is all a practice. It's an ongoing practice. The first time you ask for a high number, it's going to feel scary. Trust me, it felt scary for me. But then I just kept asking. And then what was once scary became normal. And that's true of anything, right? The first time you go skiing, sailing, swimming, walking on a, tightrope, whatever it is you do, the first time you did it, you were scared. Driving, right? The first time you did it, you were scared. But then you kept doing it, you kept doing it, you kept doing it. And now you don't even think about it. Public speaking, the first time you stood on a stage, terrified. Now you do it a million times, you can do it with your eyes closed. So the way you get over what makes you nervous or lacking in confidence is to do it over and over again. And if you don't have a real negotiation to practice with, fake one. Do a fake negotiation with yourself in the mirror. Abadasi, I want you for this, but I'm not willing to pay more than $5. $5? Well, are you willing to compromise on the value of this work? Because I don't know if you know, but the market rate for work like this is currently $500. Practice makes perfect. I'm just going to jump into Slido, and then I'm going to come back to Aaron's question and Kay Marine's question. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Feel free to correct me. So Alan asked a few questions. I'll answer a couple of these. He says, I'm a technology contractor. I've worked in technology for over 30 years. I'm looking at consulting and want to develop transformational coaching, speaking engagements. What advice would you give me to break out from contracting to build a consultancy business? So the most effective thing that you can do is probably like tell the story of how your experience in consulting shapes your work as a coach, as a speaker, right? So share some personal, deeply personal reflections of challenges that you helped companies through, lessons that you learned along the way, and think about what that very, very niche focus or niche audience of people is, right? So it might be that you help people go from being in one geographical location to multiple geographical locations. And now you want to share expertise and how to like expand into international markets. And you can share a lot of stories of how you help companies do that. Maybe one of the things that you were really big on was helping people just like embrace new technology as a way to scale up, as a way to be more efficient. So again, maybe you can share some really personal reflections as well as some case studies on how you did that to attract similar kinds of businesses. Ultimately, what you're trying to do, Alan, is show how your unique experiences can offer educational value to people who need a specific challenge solved. So the more niche you can be, the more specific you can be, the better you're gonna do. So with speaking engagements, what you want to start doing is blogging, either like on LinkedIn or on a personal blog or an email newsletter or on a Twitter thread. You want to start creating content that would form the basis of what your talk might be. If someone were to invite you to a conference to speak to tech leaders today, if someone were to invite you to TED conference, what would your talk be about? Is it about how your education intersects with your experience to create a unique perspective? Is it about how all of this work experience has created like a very compelling and unique leadership style? You have to develop the stories based on your experiences that will resonate with the people who you feel are, most closely related to you. And that might be they're related to you through their background of work, through their lived experience, whatever it might be. You need to create that compelling narrative that really, really connects with them. And, my biggest piece of advice would be look at people who are doing coaching that you admire and see how they're talking about themselves and see how they're building their audience. Where are they writing about their work? What are they saying about their work? How are they packaging their work? Are they doing webinars and then trying to use the audience at the webinars to then convert into coaching customers? Are they offering a 20-minute free coaching consultation and then trying to sell packages of 3 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours? The things that you're talking about are not new, but what will be new is how you decide to approach it. So the best way to do that is just look at people that you admire, that you relate to, you like how they built their brand, you like how they're talking about themselves online, and imitate them in a way that feels authentic. Feel free to ask follow-up questions if that's not clear. So Erin asks, how often can you negotiate as an employee? I feel like I can ask for one thing a year, but I feel like I'm imposing this on myself. I mean, I've literally never heard that rule. I guess it kind of makes sense in the concept of, you probably have like one performance review every year, Erin, and that's why you only want to ask for one thing a year. There's no right answers, is what I would probably say. I think what's really important to remember, though, is that anytime you ask for something, you have to be ready to demonstrate your value. So it's really important that throughout the year, you are keeping a record of all the things that you're accomplishing and all the things that you're achieving. And especially keep a record of how the role you are doing is growing and evolving, right? Because probably the role that you were hired to do, that you negotiated your current salary for, is in the past. And now you're doing a role that's much bigger, much more complicated, and almost inevitably adding more value to the business. So you should feel able to ask for things as your role evolves, right? If you started out not managing anyone and now you are managing someone, you should be asking for a raise. You should be asking for training. You should be asking for benefits. If you're now covering more geographical regions or a wider range of products or features, again, you can ask for stuff. The cadence at which I always asked for things was not based on time, it was based on how my role and responsibilities have evolved. Because the way that we negotiate our value in an organization is based on what we're contributing to the business, right? So you hired me to contribute A, B, and C, and I agreed to contribute A, B, and C at that price. But now I'm contributing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I we need to talk about it. And when A, B, C, D, G, blah, 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 can't remember the alphabet, becomes longer, that's another conversation. So the cadence for asking should be correlated to how the company is asking more of you. When the company asks more of you, you basically need to think like, what's in it for me? At the end of the day, you're only showing up to work because you're getting paid and you're contractually obligated to, right? It's not a charity project. So when the company says, I need you to do this, you need to think, what's in it for me? Because if I say no, I still get paid the same amount of money. So if you want me to do this, I need to also be supported in my growth, in my development, in my flexibility, in my long-term goals. I've got a family to provide for. I've got vacations I want to take. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. Feel free to ask a follow-up if it's helpful. So Kay Marine says, has your strategy of going high ever worked against you? I'm going to argue no, because I've lost opportunities because it's been too high, but I just didn't want to work with them for any lower than that. So if what you mean by worked against me is, you know, it just ended up in a no, then yeah, lots of times I've been like, I really won't do this kind of work for anything less than that. And they've been like, okay, cool, we'll go with someone else. But like I said, I know my value and I don't really want to work on a specific type of project or for a specific job unless it's delivering the value that I want, because I know my worth. There's literally like millions of opportunities out there. Like even in a recession where things are bad, there's still millions of opportunities. Like if you're aware of this webinar and you're dialed in live, like you're probably a pretty privileged person. You've got skills that you can leverage. You've got the internet. You can literally monetize so many things through the internet. So if anything, what's worked against me in the past has been, like I said earlier, giving in to cheapskates or hard negotiators in moments of weakness. And then throughout the process of that work or of that job, like feeling deep regret that I had settled or that I had gone lower. Because what you often find with companies that really push you on price, or with companies that are just like really hard negotiators, they're just really hard people. You know, like the way someone behaves in a negotiation is like a very clear indicator of how they're going to behave in your working relationship. And if someone is fair and listens to you and, you know, treats you with respect, that's going to be the dynamic that you enter the partnership with. If someone's shady, holds back information, tries to manipulate you emotionally or guilt trip you, that's how they're going to be in the partnership. You know, I really like that quote from Maya Angelou where she says, when people show you who they are, believe them. If someone is showing you that they don't value you, or they just literally want to do it for the cheapest possible option, or, you know, they're being a bit, you know, shady with the information they can share, they're not being super forthcoming, those are red flags to me. I want to work with people where I'm on a level with them and they're on a level with me. So yeah, now I should probably preface that. I should have prefaced that by saying, like, I have a risk-loving nature. I'm not a risk-averse person. Obviously, I'm a risk-loving person. I'm an entrepreneur, and I have been laid off a lot of times. I've been laid off a lot of times because I say yes to jobs that are literally just created out of thin air for me. And then after a while, the market conditions change, and it's like, actually, this role doesn't make sense anymore. But I'm the kind of person that says yes to opportunities with no guarantee of success or long-term stability, because I'm on a journey of learning and taking risks and experimenting and seeing which way the wind blows. So, you know, it's also down to mindset, right? Like that question is very much also a question of perspective. At the end of the day, you're the one that decides if a decision you made worked for or against you, because you're the one that's deciding what your goals are, what your motivations are, what your purpose is. And I'm a pretty optimistic person. So, you know, I can always connect the dots looking backwards, as Steve Jobs said, and create a pretty compelling, positive narrative. Okay, so, oh, I'm glad it was helpful. From my perspective, I don't see any other questions, but I'll just create a little buffer of a few seconds just in case anyone else had any other questions to ask, because we do still have a little bit of time. So I'll just create a bit of silence in case anyone has anything they want to ask about building confidence, building your menu of options, rehearsing responses to flashpoints, saying really high numbers. Okay, Well, if you do have any other questions that come up after this session, you can email me, abadesi@hustlecrew.co. This is the final series, but the recordings will be available. And, for more educational insight, make sure you're following us on social media at Hustle Crew Live. If you have ideas of other webinars I should run for the community in the future, just drop me a line on my email or through the social media DMs. Thanks once again for joining me, and well done for investing in yourself and taking time out of your day to level up your skills. I'm really proud of you. I hope you're proud of you, and I'll see you soon. Bye.